With the conclusion of Wano being extremely rushed, I'm sure a lot of One Piece fans have been asking the question, was Kaido a good villain? And the answer is, well, it's complicated. Successful YouTube bait, let's go! Kaido from the very start was hyped up in a unique way for sure. I mean, it's not every day that we see one of the biggest villains in both effect on the show and size, because goddamn he's massive, just like Whitebeard's. I'm so sorry, I'm trying to stop, I promise. Anyways, it's not every day that one of the biggest villains in the show is introduced by jumping off a cloud to his death. Honestly, I think Kaido's introduction was one of the best introductions in all of anime. You know, that is one thing Oda does masterfully. Villain introductions. But even to One Piece standards, Kaido's introduction was fucking amazing. We got to see the narrator hype up this man in a way similar to how One Piece fans hype up Oda. In other words, the narrator made him look like a god. Seeing Kaido willingly jump off a cloud to his death only to have no scratches at all is just, well, it's terrifying. Just like the thought of Foxy reappearing, the two scariest things. However, from his intro, two things are made painstakingly clear. First, that he needs some help. Kaido, buddy, we alright? Secondly, he's strong. The narrator made it extremely clear that no one could mess with Kaido, the King of Beasts. At this point in the show, we know Kaido as the strongest being to exist. And, well, he did live up to his title. I think that's the best place to start, his strength. Kaido's strength is what makes him a villain at all. It's what truly makes him as scary as he is. Kaido was the biggest threat the crew had faced and most definitely the strongest. I think that was also, to some degree, the point of his character. As we head down into Endgame One Piece, it's clear that Luffy needed to get stronger. We all know that the road from here is just more uphill, so he needed to level up. I think to some degree, that was the main purpose of Kaido as a villain, to be an obstacle to Luffy that pushed Luffy to become stronger. And of course, this came in the form of Gear 5. Gear 5 is a godlike transformation. Haha, get it? Because sun, god, like, it's funny, laugh. Gear 5 is the craziest One Piece transformation by far, and Luffy needed a good enough reason to actually awaken his fruit. And this came in the form of Kaido, who, well, he was a really good reason. It makes perfect sense that in order for Luffy to become a literal god, he needed to fight the strongest creature alive. Anything less than that would have taken away from the reveal of Gear 5. I think Oda partially created Kaido in order for the reveal of Gear 5. Kaido was the perfect opponent for Luffy to use Gear 5 on, especially since Kaido sort of killed him. With some help, of course. I think this is a reason people think Kaido was such a bad villain. It's because he wasn't the only one. Because Wano and the entire Yonko saga in general was at such a massive scale, we had more than one major villain. Big Mom, Orochi, CP0 for some reason. All of them were also villains that took part of the villaining during Wano. Villaining, is that a real word? While Kaido was the main fighting villain, I'd argue Wano was split up into two major villains. Side note, but yes, I brought up the CP0 agent helping Kaido just for this transition. It was smooth, okay? Just go with it. Orochi was, as much as it hurts to say, an amazing villain because he managed to do what every good villain should do. Be hated by the fandom. Yes, Foxy, you also did this, just for different reasons. Orochi was such a good villain because of what seems to be his biggest flaw. Orochi ruined the nation of Wano, killed its citizens, and kept food from Hatama, already the worst thing on this list, but he was also weak and cowardly. He needed someone to make up for this, so in came Kaido. Kaido helped cover Orochi's weakness, fighting. It's unfortunate that he couldn't also cover up his head. Kaido was created purely to fight because we already had Orochi to do the dirty shit. I think the reason some people were disappointed by Kaido is because he didn't do much other than put up a great fight, but that was all he had to do. Orochi did everything else. But now on to the main reason why people think Kaido sucks, the lack of a backstory. The lack of a good backstory for Kaido is one of the reasons people call Kaido a bad villain, but I'd argue there was no reason for him to have a backstory. It's obvious that he just worked out a lot. Get it? Backstory as in the body part, but also the back as in the story. A lot of fans were relying on Kaido's backstory to make him a full character, but his backstory, if you can even call it that, didn't explain much. After hours of research, it wasn't an hour, it was just the first search result on Google, I found out that the purpose of a backstory is to explain why a character behaves how they do and to make the world complete. What the fuck does that last one mean? Kaido's backstory did little to nothing to explain why he acted like he did. While it's clear that he was searching for Joy Boy, it didn't explain, to be honest, anything else. Like, we have literally no clue why he did everything. But also, I feel like deep down, even Oda didn't know. I think the fact is, Kaido was just trying to die, but he needed someone else's help to do so. So, he just waited for his death. Or maybe it was just that he was so drunk all the time that he had no idea what he was doing. Whatever it was, Kaido's backstory did little to nothing to explain his reasoning, which makes me believe that he had none. He was simply trying to find as many powerful people as he can and waiting for a cure to his boredom. He just spent every day waiting for his death, drinking, and living life without a purpose. In other words, Kaido was just every college student ever. Kaido seemed to be existing without purpose. He had already found out that he wasn't the fabled Joy Boy, so he would just wait to find out who the real Joy Boy was. While many people weren't satisfied with this form of the story, I think the idea that Kaido did all the horrible things he did just because he felt like it would make him an even more terrifying villain. So now all this begs the question, is Kaido a bad villain? And to that, I'd actually answer no. While many people would call his lack of a backstory and character building a critical flaw, which for any other character it is, Kaido served a different purpose. I believe that Kaido was simply meant to push Luffy to his boundaries and make him grow stronger. However, all this being said, it is extremely disappointing that that is all he was. The fact that Kaido got the biggest saga of One Piece so far to himself, but was nothing more than a training dummy, was disappointing. He could have been so much more and joined other antagonists like Dofi and Katakuri as the greatest antagonist of One Piece so far. However, for what he was meant to do, Kaido did a really great job. Kaido was terrifyingly strong, and his crew pushed the Straw Hats to levels they've never been pushed to before. Kaido and his crew were great because they forced the crew to get prepared for the endgame and the battles they'll have to face to become Pirate King. And for that, I think he served his purpose. And what many people think his death was I'll put the word on screen. I think it was poetic that he died falling from clouds like he tried to do when we first saw him. So overall, what is the conclusion of Kaido? His first mate is hot. But for real, what are your thoughts on Kaido? And as always, thank you for watching. That's it for me.